are going to record this so that folks that aren't able to join us today will get a chance to join us on to find out what's happened at this town hall at another time. Welcome, everybody. It's good to see you. My name is Pamela Evans, and I am the ministry team lead for First Third Ministry for the Pacific Mountain Regional Council. And while Trina is away for her sabbatical extended study leave, I am the acting executive minister for the month of January. And so, yeah, so welcome. I'm glad that you're here, and I'm going to pass over the mic as you speak to Deborah to lead us in worship and land acknowledgement.
Thank you, Pamela, and good afternoon, everyone. I know on the TV earlier this week, they were going, oh, in the second week of January, you never say Happy New Year. And that's not me. I take the privilege of saying Happy New Year until the end of January. So Happy New Year. And for those of you who don't know me, you've probably seen the name, but not put a name to a face. I'm Deborah Richards, and I am the president for the region for this year and for another year and a half. And so as we get started, let's take this time to take a deep breath and to put aside and all the other external things that are competing for our attention so that we can be together. I feel privileged to join you today from the unceded traditional territories of the Qayqayt, Musqueam, and Coast Salish people in New Westminster. And as we gather together for this town hall, we acknowledge and honor that we live and work on the territories of the many Indigenous peoples who inhabited this land before many of us came as settlers. May we live with respect on this land and continue to walk the path of truth and reconciliation and living in right relations with our Indigenous siblings. And I invite you to share in the chat the traditional lands on which you're located and from which you're joining us, or to add in words that let us know what actions are you committing to on the journey of truth and reconciliation. Thank you. And you can continue to add those as we go through the meeting. Today, I'm offering prayers for the first week after Epiphany. And so let us join in those prayers, and we'll start with Isaiah 43, verse 1 as a grounding. God says, "Do not fear, for I have redeemed you. I have called you by name. You are mine." Gracious God, from the busyness of our lives, we pause to remember that we are yours. We seek to make you a part of our every moment. Magnificent as your ways and gracious is your will. May our lives be lived in response to your freely given love. And I offer today for our reflection and personal reflection, Psalm 29, verses 1 to 11. Ascribe to the Lord, O heavenly beings. Ascribe to the Lord glory and strength. Ascribe to the Lord the glory of his name. Worship the Lord in holy splendor. The voice of the Lord is over the waters. The God of glory thunders. The Lord are mighty waters, over mighty waters. The voice of the Lord is powerful. The voice of the Lord is full of majesty. The voice of the Lord breaks the cedars. The Lord breaks the cedars of Lebanon. He makes Lebanon skip like a calf and Syria like a young wild ox. The voice of the Lord flashes forth flames of fire. The voice of the Lord shakes the wilderness. The Lord shakes the wilderness of Kadesh. The voice of the Lord causes the oaks to whirl and strips the forest bare. And in his temple, all say glory. The Lord sits enthroned over the flood. The Lord sits enthroned as king forever. May the Lord give strength to his people. May the Lord bless his people with peace. And as we start the year, this passage and these verses give us strength in knowing that our Lord is present everywhere and gives us strength. And as we think about moving forward, let us offer this prayer. Creator of all humanity, we call you holy and seek to worship you all the days of our lives. We pray that the ways of your heavenly kingdom may be made real in the world that surrounds us. May the bread needed today be made available for all who hunger. We are thankful for your forgiveness. Now enable us to forgive those who have sinned against us. In the time of moral testing, may we listen first with your voice calling to us. This world and all that is in it always has been and always will be yours. Help us lose ourselves to you and to your kingdom. Help us find who we truly are as we walk in your light. Amen. Thank you. Back to you, Pamela.
Thank you, Deborah. Appreciate it. Welcome, everyone. So this afternoon, we're going to hear first off from Daniel Martin, who's the campus ministry animator and has exciting news to share with you about the ministry that's happening in Pacific Mountain Regional Council. And then we have some opportunity for questions. So if you want to jot those questions down, if there are any, we can quiz Daniel afterwards. Just kidding. And then also, it's kind of like a quiz, but they're great questions. So I'm sure that it'll be awesome. And then we're going to hear a couple of things from folks that are in and around the region and some announcements of things that are coming up. So Daniel, we're really excited you're with us and happy that you're able to share today about campus ministry. Thanks for your time.
Very excited to be with you all. Happy to be here. I'm in Victoria today, which is a rare treat, and the sun is out and it's beautiful. So everything's just great. Like Pamela said, my name is Daniel Martin, and I serve as the campus ministry animator for the Pacific Mountain Regional Council. And whenever I say that, it often comes with some follow-up questions, and they normally are, what is that? Why? And who even are you? And so I'll start, who even am I? I've been some sort of children's, youth, young adult family minister for about the past 15 years in some form. And I'm newer to the United Church of Canada. I came in while attending VST in 2019 and was welcomed into a warm congregation and a warm family of people in the United Church. So if you haven't seen me, it's because I'm newer. And what is a campus ministry animator, and why do we have one as we start launching into this conversation? The why is because our region and the GCO strategic plan has articulated a commitment for first third ministry, which is ministry to those in the first 30 years of their life. And this includes campus ministry. My specific work is supporting existing campuses, helping the ministers and the students there navigate change, dream up new ideas, learning new ways of doing ministry together, and creating new ministry, like what we've seen at the University of Northern British Columbia with Kendra Mitchell Foster, and at Simon Fraser University with Luna Harlow. And a piece of that as well as finding funding. As college students are often massively in debt, they are encountering a global climate crisis in their formational years, and they experience food insecurity at alarmingly high levels. So they're not sustaining their own ministry. And we act almost as the young adult outreach wing of the region, from social justice projects to food giveaways to shared meals, to very often being the only affirming, inclusive Christian worship space on campus. That's all a part of Campus United, campus ministry here in the Pacific Mountain region. And today's town hall might have roped you in because we noted that we have information to share with you about what young adults think about the United Church of Canada. And we do. So let's just jump right in. This past summer and into the fall and the spring, thanks to a Canada Summer Jobs grant and a grant from Provision, we were able to hire 15 young adults, 8 of them in the Pacific Mountain region and 7 of them in Chinook Winds at the following universities: Simon Fraser, the University of British Columbia, University of Victoria, the University of Northern British Columbia, Mount Royal University, the University of Calgary, and the Southern Alberta Institute of Technology. And I am noting the folks in Calgary and Chinook Winds region because we interviewed and have had a relationship with their young adults as well. So their information is in this sharing project. These 15 young adults were hired to lead us in campus ministry in relaunching and expanding after the lull that happened on campuses due to the COVID-19 pandemic. We kept some online presences, but all the in-person stuff, much like what happened in congregations, had to stop. And so it's been redreaming, recreating, and starting anew at so many of our campuses. These young people went through a 1-week leadership and formation retreat in Lethbridge, Alberta. They spent the summer taking modules on Christian theology, affirming ministry, social justice practices, mental health, first aid, missional theology, social media and advertising, and evangelism. They then worked with the 5 campus ministers to plan out the fall for each campus, offering ideas for programming, coming up with ways to support existing ministry, discovering new ways to build relationship on the respective campuses, really going places that we as adults cannot. Learning what students in their dorms are looking for, looking at times when people are up, times when people are lonely, really trying to figure out and working tirelessly in researching what their campuses look like and what their peers are looking for. And they committed to providing us with real and authentic feedback as to what they and their fellow university students think of us, think about faith, think about the world, and think about Jesus. And so here's what they've shared so far. I can't go through the entire document, so I'm going to give you some of the highlights, but basically I'm going to start with some numerical info and then I'm going to give you some responses that they gave in interviews to specific questions. So to start this, of these 15 young people, only one of them grew up in the United Church of Canada. So these are young people who are not from our institution. One of the first questions we asked was, before taking this position, what did you know about the United Church? 7 of them said nothing to very little, never heard of us. 1 was baptized as a baby into the United Church. 4 of them noted that they knew we were an LGBTQIA2S+ inclusive denomination. And 3 noted that they had heard we were liberal or progressive. That's all they knew about us. Next question. Before taking this position, were you connected or aware of any United Church of Canada churches in your area? And if so, what did you know or hear about them? 8 of them said no, that they'd never heard of a United Church. 6 of them were aware but had no knowledge about the United Church. One of them grew up in the United Church, but noted that they never reached out for community when they moved away to university. So in general, no knowledge of their local United Churches. Again, before taking this position, were you aware of any United Church Canada activity on your college or university campus? 11 of them said no. 5 of them said yes, and those 5 were all from YYC campus ministry. So they're all from Calgary, and they all mentioned some sort of outreach event there was what they had heard about. Okay, so that was kind of the boring stuff, just the data. Here's some of the more interesting questions that we asked and engaged with them. So we said, as you've been working on campus, what have other students' reactions or responses been while you've talked about the United Church of Canada? I'll give you some of the highlights. Generally the same as my perception was going into this position. They often express ideas about the United Church of Canada being a cool church or an affirming church. Another one said mostly positive. We had one guy who was a jerk about it, but I think he was more of a general weirdo than someone opposed to religion at all. Another student said initially a bit of hesitation, given the reputation that Christian ministry has on campus when it comes to social issues. But when they get to know us and throughout time in our events, they begin to feel more comfortable. We have some notes here about the United Church being a welcoming place, some students really loving the reaction over it being inclusive for queer people. There was some words from students that are turned off of the church in general due to the history with residential schools of churches in Canada. Another one, people I talk to are generally quite unsure. I don't normally know the spiritual backgrounds of people, and I think people are freaked out by Christianity. Seems like sometimes when we say we're the United Church of Canada, they might be positive. Other times they don't know who we are, and other times they're shocked that a church would be so progressive in their values and worldview. Similarly, surprised that there's a non-homophobic church group, very skeptical about that. And then a final note on that question is that students tend to be mostly curious about how the church can be accommodating for them and their beliefs and questions surrounding religion. Another question that we asked them to do the United Church of Canada, describe it in one sentence, which we'll skip over that one, kind of the elevator speech about the United Church, and then one paragraph. So here's what some of them have to say. They started in July, so 6-7 months in to the United Church of Canada. Some of them are quite good. Describe the United Church in one paragraph. A community of folks working together towards a way of moving through the world in a Christ-like manner, empowered by the Spirit with a reverence for God, a space in which folks might reconnect with a lost spiritual practice or where they might find a new one, a deeply flawed institution, still reckoning with its legacy of colonial violence and harm, a possibility as yet unfulfilled for radical change and renewal in the world. Another young adult said, it's an environment where anyone can feel safe and comfortable, accepted and appreciated. The people here are so kind and wonderful. It doesn't matter what background or cultures or beliefs you are from, you are welcomed. Another student said, the United Church of Canada is the most progressive church organization in the country. The individuals I work with are polite and kind. I am not from a religious background, and so this was very weird to get used to. But I truly feel that I was welcomed and appreciated by members of this faith tradition. Another young adult notes that the United Church is a diverse, open, and vigorous denomination. Through the engagement with the United Church and the work my team has done, we have all learned that the United Church is a very open and welcoming place. Another young adult says, an organization that aims to bring people within Christianity and outside of it together to understand spirituality and the role it has in our lives. Moreover, it seeks to affirm and include people's whole identities and welcome them in all aspects of life. Another student. Christians who recognize the harm their religion has caused others and who seek to rectify past wrongs. You uplift queer and other groups historically marginalized by Christianity. Another student, the United Church has placed, a little typo there, has noted itself, we'll say that, as a tolerant, progressive, and socially aware church in Canada, one that supports and accepts all people, regardless of gender identity, race, and sexuality. United Church is a congregation that does not work against other congregations, but alongside them. And it tends to be a low-key church, one that doesn't practice outward evangelism and does not push its agenda onto others. One student must have been paying attention in the United Church History and Theology module, very clearly noted our history as a part of their response. And then the final two on that question, the United Church is a place for all, especially those who have established a relationship with God and with Jesus, those who are still figuring out how Jesus works in their lives and who have questions about religion and faith. They provide a welcoming environment to discuss and find the joy of scripture and prayer and how this brings meaning and purpose to your life. And the final one, the United Church is a great church that I would say anyone interested in an unforceful, gracious Christianity would benefit greatly from connecting with. They are affirming of all people, religions, and sexual and gender orientations, and their services bridge the Christian world with the practical world at large in ways that are beautiful and to be appreciated. So all quite wonderful things that they have to say about their experience with the United Church of Canada. Very authentic, very real, not shying away from perhaps some of the more trouble spots, but very gracious. Our next question that we chatted with them about was a little more theological. How would you describe the importance and significance of Jesus in your life and your work? This one's fun. Had quite a spectrum with this question. First one, as a historical figure, he is fascinating. As a symbol of divine reconciliation with the world and humanity, he is extremely powerful. I am not sure that I have a personal relationship with him, but I aspire to one day understand him as the bridal mystics experienced him, the word who penetrates without sound. Another student, I would say he is the fuel for my engine. I just feel totally lost when I forget or separate apart from him. Another one, extremely important, and I need to find more ways of being in touch with him. I don't find that we have many faith-related things in other workplaces. Another, while I believe the Christian faith is important to my body of work, in our attempts to remain a safe interfaith space on campus, I do not routinely interact directly with the teachings of Jesus. Another student, he is the essential bridge which helps us connect with both private and social life. He leads us and engages us into unforeseen doors. Some similar comments about Jesus being significant and present in their life. One student noting that they don't place any significance on Jesus, except for the fact that he is very meaningful to the world and in the lives of others. And the final comment on this, Jesus is an embodiment of the living word, living God, and is a model of faith and unity with God. I see Christ as within us and the force of the guiding principle of those who live in harmony with great spirit's inspiration and intuitive guidance. Christ is love, and we can all embody the presence Jesus carried. I see this as the goal of life and all work. One of the final questions that we'll go over in our town hall that we asked them was, have you ever attended a local United Church of Canada congregation? And what was your experience like? So again, 15 students, 4 of them responded to the question by saying no, they've never attended a local United Church of Canada congregation. Of the yeses who responded, here's what they experienced. I have attended the United Church of Canada services, one more traditional and one more unconventional, and I have come away both times with a feeling of frustration. The seeds for a powerful communal experience are there, but they have yet to be fertilized. there is perhaps a sense of purposelessness or habitualness that may need to be disrupted. Another student. It was pretty good. I found it invigorating and quickening a once still heart. Another student. The first affirming church that I've been to. So very relieving in some sense. And I have found that experience to be enlightening and meaningful that I've only attended Catholic services previously. Another. I found some good and others less engaging. It's pretty hit or miss depending on who is giving the service. I did really enjoy and find the discussions around Indigenous revival and culture relevant and important. This was something I didn't associate with the United Church of Canada. Another student. I have attended a few local churches. Generally, the congregation is much, much older than me, with only 1 to 2 people of my age, if at all. I sense a lot of love and a lot of life, very positive vibes within the churches. Notes that they too have only attended Roman Catholic churches previously. And finishes their statement by saying the United Church feels almost secular, like a gathering of people who want to do good things rather than a gathering of people who want to worship God. I think this works for a lot of people, but sometimes I find it hard to feel connected to God in a United Church service. What a student say, it was wonderful, was hopeful. And then one name a specific church, as in Calgary, so don't mind saying their name. I attended and participated in multiple Scarborough United Church services and found them to all be beautiful and life-giving. If one listens to the words shared at those services, they are all about true unity that few other churches seem to promote. There's more to that questionnaire and study that we kind of put together. If you would like to hear some more of the things or see the whole thing, please feel free to email me. I'll put my email in the chat. It's dmartin@united-church.ca. And coming from that, I wanted just to offer a few short reflections, kind of how I've been sitting with this information. I'll give you 3, maybe 4. While the experience of these young people has been positive in Campus United and YYC campus ministry, they simply didn't know who we were coming into this. This was also proven correct in our focus testing when we launched Simon Fraser University. We're not known with young people, and we certainly have very little name recognition with international students at university. Coming off of that, what they do know, we accept queer people and are liberal and progressive. Those aren't bad things. And they note, those who know Canadian history, they note our role in residential schools, and they're interested in the dialogue that we've started and continued over the past several years with that. Their experiences of congregations are mixed, and in general, it seems like they don't know the reason why they should attend something on a Sunday morning. I wonder if we've not articulated or given them a compelling reason. Some other things that stood out to me is all but 2 students noted Jesus as quite a big deal, even if they're not sure about his significance. And the students who didn't note Jesus as a big deal were convinced that he was a big deal for others. Some other observations in general about campus ministry coming off of this is the University of British Columbia and Simon Fraser are primarily dominated by conservative Christian campus ministries. UVic has a stronger ecumenical legacy with an inclusive Christians group. UNBC is brand new and being rebuilt by us, the Anglicans, and the Jewish campus minister. All of these campuses are radically different. There's not one answer. There's not one way of doing campus ministry or one template. We often find ourselves leaning into missional theology and learning and becoming a part of these campus cultures as each campus then guides us into responding where God is moving, where young people are at, what do we need to be doing. My final two comments, and this is from engaging with international students personally, and newer Christians and students who stumble into our walls, into our doors. It seems that we struggle with concrete and black and white answers in regards to faith. While students who are deconstructing are often moving in the gray, other students are looking for building blocks to find hope and life transformation in. And my question is, do our churches provide hope in a world that is increasingly hopeless to these young people? And does it foster significant life change, forming disciples into Christ likeness? Are we able to provide this to students? And then my final comment on this, how are we interacting with young people in the places where they exist? None of these students knew about us, knew that we existed, and most of them are from Canada. How can we expect students to find us if we're not present in any of their realities or where they discover information? And again, if you'd like to hear more about campus ministry, if you want to hear more about the information that these students have given us, feel free to email me and I'll pop that in the chat. And I'm going to pass it back to Pamela.
Thanks, Daniel. I wonder if we could just take 1 minute just to hear what Daniel was saying, and maybe there's just something brewing in you as far as question or comment. But let's just take a minute of quiet. Notice where you are thinking and wondering about. Daniel, I really appreciate some of the information that you gave us around the responses from our community connectors, and it's good to be reminded, and thank you. So I did put your email into the chat if folks would like that. I wonder if there's anyone who has a question, if you'd like to pose it in the chat or put your hand up and I can invite you to ask the question, or if there's something that you're thinking about that you would like Daniel to reflect on. Jenna?
Hi, everybody. My name's Jenna. I live in Oak Bay, or I don't live in Oak Bay, but I go to Oak Bay United. I guess I have so many things that I wrote down, Daniel, but the only actual question I can think about right now is, you mentioned that that campus ministry often takes a missional theology approach. And I guess one of my questions is, and letting the campus guide us, and I can absolutely see the value in that. Are you suggesting that that's absolutely something we need to lean into more, or is it perhaps something that we need to hold in one hand and maybe there's something else that I don't want to say more intentional, because it's what we're doing is very intentional, but in order to kind of make it so people they can bump into God, maybe there's guiding as well as kind of just putting something in the way. So I'm just kind of wondering your thoughts around that.
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you, Jenna. The missional theology, kind of the response to that was coming out of the schools being closed for so long and launching new campuses and new campus ministers, is we needed to learn the spaces that we were in again. Everything had changed. Any students we had connections with had graduated, basically. And so leaning into what's going on and where God is moving and what God's up to I think is one of the many ways to do campus ministry, and it's certainly an important step in new spaces. I do love the idea of being visible and allowing people to bump into the church on campus. And that's something that I think we're maybe a little uncomfortable with, is which the term in our region is faithful public witness. What does that look like on a university campus nowadays? And we certainly have a list of how not to do it from the people who are yelling and I don't know, not being kind Christians on campus. We have the not do list, but how do we do it in a United Church of Canada way, I think is something that we're discovering and trying to lean into.
Thanks, Daniel. Marion Garnett, you had a question? Oh, Marion, we can't, are others having trouble hearing Marion? Yeah, I think it's, would you be able to type the question you have? Mauricio, Marion's voice was doing something funny. Would you have a suggestion about how to fix that?
Necessarily, it probably is unfortunately on her end.
Okay.
You can try and probably mute yourself and unmute yourself to see if that would, if you could try to speak after you unmute yourself.
I guess while we're working on the unmuting, I can quickly answer Marie's question in the chat. They noted you mentioned Catholic, Anglican, and Jewish presences on campus. Was Buddhism also mentioned? It depends on the campus. I'm quite confident there's an organized group at the University of British Columbia and at the University of Victoria. I've not seen that at UNBC or Simon Fraser.
So Daniel, David M was asking, how many color or intercultural staff are on campus ministry?
How many, say that again, students of color?
Yeah. Yeah.
I would say total 3 to 4. Does that reflect an accurate visual, Pamela?
Yeah, I'm just going through my brain. I think so.
3 to 4, and I would say 4 to 5 who identify as some form of queer.
And Jen Swanson had a question. She says in the chat, we have enjoyed getting to know our local campus minister and just completed an Advent project with them, but wonder what else or more we can do to build connection with the students.
Yeah, that's the big question, Jen. How do we build more connections with students? I would say step 1, as you've already done it, is connect with your local campus minister. And if you don't have one, connect with me. There's other ways to connect with university campuses. We're testing some projects now, hoping to do some fun things in Castlegar with Langara College. We're trying lots of ways to connect congregations to local universities. So step 1, reach out to a campus minister, reach out to me. The other thing that I've chatted with different congregations about, which is a little bit risky, is kind of the question, what would your building do if it were a Christian? I was talking to one church that's like right next to a campus, and like, we just don't know what to do. And I'm like, well, there's no more study space at your school. Like, you could open for 24 hours and just give away pancakes and, you know, put posters all around town. Like, actually invite students in on something that they desperately need. And so those kind of basic ways of connecting with your local students, that they're not transactional. They're just, we have the space, we want you here. We want to serve you, we want to give you pancakes. That's hard to resist for students. And then naturally they're going to have questions. So those would be some of the things I would say, Jen, which are, you've already done, reach out to your campus minister, open your building in new and creative ways to students, which I know you're chatting with Luna about ways to do that. Another thing might be to, if you have a local campus minister, join what's going in or what's happening on campus. Pop in and see what a campus ministry event looks like. Rather than have brunch at a downtown coffee shop or another coffee shop, go have a meal on campus. See what students are living, what they're experiencing. That's when you're going to see young people in action, is when you're on campus.
Thank you. So Marion, thank you for posting your question. So Marion says, our congregation has been sending meals to soup suppers at UVic for learning to meditate and other activities for decades. Last spring too, but none in the fall or more recently. Henry Locke hoped to come to our Pi Day in 2020 with students, and then COVID, darn. What's happening at UVic now, Daniel?
Yeah, thank you, Marion. UVic has been in a period of transition. Henry retired, what would that be, at the end of the 2021 school year. And we had a campus minister come in. Greg Powell was there for a year. Didn't quite feel like the right fit. We had Unjan O, who was there for several months, starting some new things, and also didn't feel it was quite the right fit. And so at UVic, we're actually hiring again. We're trying to think, what does the community need? Specifically, what is our role in a fairly functional and flourishing multi-faith center? And one of the rare campuses that has an inclusive Christians group. So we're working there with the Lutherans, Presbyterians, and Anglicans, and there's an established community. And so UVic is, again, in a rethinking, relaunching, rehiring phase, going, what's next? And what do we as the United Church of Canada have to offer at this university? So that's what's going on at UVic.
And Peter, you had a question?
Thanks, Pamela. Yeah, and Daniel, thank you very much for that summary and your insights. One of the things that jumped out at me was, and I can't remember if it was you who said it or was in the report, looking for hope in a world that is increasingly hopeless. And I was wondering if you could elaborate on that, and then if you have any thoughts about how our denomination can help address that.
Yeah. The increasingly hopeless language is rooted a lot in the climate catastrophe that's going on. It's rooted a lot in what many would describe as declining empires of capitalism around the world, of seeing systems and structures broken beyond repair, still seeing people of color, Indigenous people, and queer people being harmed and murdered across the world. Young people today are growing up in what they describe as it's hopeless. Like, I personally was chatting with a friend yesterday, and he was like, I think we have 20 years max and it's all done. And just noting everything that's happening. And he's right in the college age. He's probably 20, 23, 24. And he goes, I just don't even, like, why bother? Like, I'm just going to write it out. And so that hopelessness, that there's no purpose, the world's certainly not progressing forward with this generation, is kind of a consensus. What do we have to offer? I hope we have Jesus to offer, the hope that there's something outside of this, that there's a bigger story, that we have purpose, and we have a role to play. And even in a world that feels hopeless, our relationships are meaningful with others, the way that we love and interact with others, who we're becoming and how we're affecting the world, it all matters. It's all a part of a larger story. There was a big TikTok meme or trend like 6 months ago around, like, I am the main character. And there was this little audio clip that went with it, and you videoed people and showed that, like, you're the main character of your life. You're the main character of the world. And there's like some discourse about it in some Christian circles, like, wait, that's a counter narrative to what we encounter in the story of God, that we're not the main character. We have a beautiful, incredible role to play in this grand story of God, but it's not just us, not just me. And so I think the church has that to offer. I know someone who's mildly young at this point. That's what it offers me. And for friends who've stuck around, it tends to be that meaning, purpose, hope, life transformation. Those are things that are hard to find elsewhere.
Thanks, Daniel. Well said.
David asks Daniel, could you give us actual examples of campus ministry that's taking place right now?
Absolutely. That's like my favorite question because I love telling all the unique stories at campuses.
Just for, this is the last question, Daniel, because I just want to make sure that we keep to the time, but tell us where else we could get information to as part of it.
Yeah, so you can always go on right now to campusunited.ca and you'll see the events that are happening at 3 of our 4 universities. The 4th one, I'm waiting on what's going on this semester. But you'll see most of the events and stuff that's happening for the next 2 months because everything's online now. Students look for things online and of course posters on campus. What's happening at UBC? Some examples of ministry right now is they've decided to do something called quiet worship. UBC has a lot of loud, raucous worship events. What they don't have is a lot of quiet, silent space. And so offering an alternative there, it's just called quiet worship, just very straight to the point. They're offering a mental health course that integrates sociology and theology. And that's in junction with St. Andrew's Hall there at UBC. They are sitting in the Student Life building for about 2 hours every Wednesday, advertising and just letting people know that they're there to talk, that if they just want to come practice English, if they're bored, if they haven't made friends yet, we're here every Wednesday, 1 to 3. Come say hi. They tried some other things. They did a spiritual spa, I believe, at the end of the semester last year, which was just, again, ways to decompress, ways to experience silence. I think they had like chair massages, just giving space to students to have, to slow down on campus. Over at UVic this past semester, there was some giveaways. There was a spicy noodle soup challenge, which gave away hot soup to students on cold days. There's the Inclusive Christians gathering. Simon Fraser has leaned into art therapy that fits within the Multi-Faith Center as a unique outreach and an alternative to all of the other things that happen there. And they also did, which is like, I wish I had this in college, fire pit conversations. It's a beautiful fire pit, a couple of them at Simon Fraser that the university actually sets up. So they just kind of booked one and hosted it every Tuesday or Wednesday for an hour and had some intentional conversations around a fire pit, which is perfect. And UNBC, what we've learned up there is students who go to UNBC are very focused on social justice. They're going to a school that was created in response to social justice issues, in response to climate change. And when they move to that new place, they can't seem to find places to get connected in that. So UNBC is very social justice oriented, serving meals at St. Vincent de Paul's, I believe doing things like trash walks and prayer walks, and actually just jumping right into serving the community. So 4 campuses, 4 very different things going on.
Thank you, Daniel, for everything. And I know from knowing Daniel that he'd be happy to speak to your congregations, communities of faith, or if you have ways that you'd like to connect into the campus ministry that's happening in your area, please reach out to Daniel or myself and we can help you do that. So thanks so much for your time. I appreciate it. So we have a couple of announcements for you about other things that are happening in the region. And I invite Allison to speak about what's happening in leadership.
Thanks, Pamela, and thank you, Daniel. I just want to say, Daniel, that the very first part of your information that you said, well, now I'm done the boring part, I actually found that incredibly interesting. That really speaks to this huge gap between how we see ourselves on the inside, and how our communities of all ages and young adults might be particularly helpful to us, that they have a complete blank slate. That's so important, I think, to really think about as leaders. Yes, I just want to take a couple of moments to mention some things about leadership. The first one is, many of you may already know this, but just for those of you who don't, I'm stepping back from that position in the leadership director as of the end of the first week of February. And Reverend Michelle Slater will be taking up that role of leadership director for an interim period. Sometime after Trina is back from her sabbatical, there will be some thinking about posting a permanent position. I'm really thrilled that Michelle is stepping in, and so you can look forward to her leadership and to her hosting of leadership events. There are two leadership opportunities that I wanted to lift up for you today. One of them is for any of you who have had some experience with Janet Gear's theological banquet, either because you've introduced it at your congregation or you've worked with it yourselves, you've attended a learning that Janet has put on. We're having a seminar of a smaller group of people who are going to try and help Janet take the theological banquet material to the next level, which is really moving from a typology, like I'm a missional, I'm an evangelical, to learning more about in our communities, how can we use this framework to really address the crunchy, difficult clashes that can happen because of our different theological identities within the United Church. So that's called Navigating Landscapes of Faith. It's a seminar for those of you who are already somewhat familiar with the theological banquet. And I'd be just really want to hold that up for your interest. Janice Young will host that with Janet. The other one is that we've seen in Chinook Winds and in Pacific Mountain and across the church a huge spike in the number of congregations that are going from full-time paid accountable ministry to some form of part-time. And for some, it's like we started full-time, then we went 3/4, then we went 0.6, then we went 0.5. Like it feels like a slippery slope to less and less and less time. We're offering a really intentional, quite intensive learning for congregations and clergy who are in that part-time scenario to really embrace part-time ministry and think about it in a way that's not just about a slippery slope to closure, because that's surely what it can feel like, but to really look at what would it be like to be in having a part-time ministry personnel and feel like we're having a thriving, faithful ministry. What does discipleship look like for lay people? What's the role of the clergy? There's not one answer to that, but there will be an answer that makes sense for each location or place where there is a part-time minister. This is a year-long training and a really fantastic opportunity. So you can participate as a clergy on your own. You can participate as clergy plus some lay people from your congregation. If you are volunteering on one of the conference or regional council committees that has oversight for pastoral relations, or you're looking at position descriptions and congregational assessments, and you're thinking about part-time ministry, you're more than welcome to participate. That's called Culture Shift Part-Time Ministry Project. And both of those, the event with Janet and the part-time ministry, they start up right at the very end of January. So feel free to shout out to me between now and then, and I'd be happy to talk to you about those opportunities. There's some other things on the schedule coming up. You can look on our website to see, and Michelle will be taking on what that calendar looks like going forward, which will be exciting. Gosh, it's nice to see all your faces and names and the places of contact that I've had with you, some of you over the last few years. I just want to say thank you for your support for leadership. And thank you for being thoughtful, faithful, dedicated, curious, frustrated leaders in the places that you are. It's all that energy that is going to make a difference going forward. Bless you and thank you.
Thank you, Allison. Allison, if you could put the leadership website link into the chat, would that be okay? Thank you. So one other notice, I'm wondering, please, if you could just take a moment to reflect on your community of faith, and if there might be somebody, youth that's ages 14 to 17, that would be interested in the church governance, church policy making, how they might make a difference in the church, the way that the ministries and the way the church is moving. We're looking for youth to be part of youth council, and I will put the website link in the chat for where you could find out more information about that. But if you have somebody that you think might be interested, the deadline has passed, but we are interested in finding out if there is somebody within your congregation that is passionate about the church and has vision and ideas about how the church might continue to grow and deepen in the years coming up. So please let me know if you have somebody in mind. And if there are other announcements at this point, because we have 1 more minute, if you could put them in the chat, that would be great. There is the News of Note or the Community Connection emails that are coming through. And Catherine, I did get your question about the Children's Retreat. The Children's Retreat is at Camp Frickham this year. And there is information in the News of Note and the Community Connection. And I think it's going on the website for firstthirdministry.ca. We had trouble with our website yesterday. We weren't able to get in to make some changes to events, so I will check that out. But it's actually, I don't know the dates. It's in March at Camp Pringle.
Camp Frickham.
Frickham. It's at Frickham. Thank you so much.
It's March 17th to the 19th.
Oh, sorry, no, 18th to the 20th.
So Saturday.
Saturday to Monday, because that is spring.
Got it.
So yes, so that you'll notice that there's some other chat news that's going on. So I invite you to stay, and I'll stay on so you can have a read through those chats. But as we leave, I'm so grateful for your time. Thank you for coming, and I would ask Deborah to do our closing blessing.
Thanks, Pamela, and thank you very much, Daniel, for that presentation. Let us pray. Holy One, you have called us by name. You have called us to ministry in this place. We thank you for the faithful witness and the work of our campus ministry. And as we leave today, guide us to continue our ministry in whichever place we are, in our campus ministry, in our young adult ministry, in our communities, to engage the community around us. We've been challenged to spread your message more broadly, interactively, and in spaces and new spaces. Give us the grace to embrace that challenge, to offer meaning, purpose, hope to the wider community. In your name, amen. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Deborah.
Take care.
Everyone,
Bye.
take care. Blessings. Take care, everyone.